What is going on? Let's see. Let me get my stuff together here, guys. Okay, this is gonna be kind of a weird episode to make. I honestly think this might be one of the more important episodes I make on this channel. Even if no one watches this, at least I can get it off my chest. Let's face it, us content creators, we're selfish. We make everything about ourselves, but this is cheaper than therapy. So I can just rant to a camera and maybe I'll feel better. So, okay. It might be fun and cool and, radical to build your cars and make them handle real well and make them go real fast and then take those cars to the canyon and just carve them up. And I truly do believe it's cool and fun and worthwhile, because if I didn't feel those things, I wouldn't do it, and I definitely wouldn't make a YouTube channel talking about it with you guys. So it is something I'm very, very passionate about. But there's another side to this. Whenever you do those things, right, drive your car quickly, push it to the limit a little bit, go to these precarious mountain roads, you are taking your lives into your own hands. And to be clear, there's inherent risk within every decision you make your entire life, okay? So not just in regards to driving, but specifically, and especially when we're talking about driving precarious mountain roads at some maybe higher than normal speeds. So why am I talking about all of this? Well, a few hours after I filmed the last episode you guys saw on this channel with me at Angeles Crest talking about my Porsche 944 and its recent updates, again, within hours, someone passed away on that same road. So it is surreal, it's upsetting, it is incredibly unfortunate, and then the more information you learn about it, the worse it gets. So it is two people have passed away. It wasn't just the driver, it was the driver and their passenger, and it was the driver and a younger family member of his, which I don't want to get into too many specifics. I don't know these people. I'm sure their families are devastated. It's devastating for the car community, especially the people here in SoCal that frequent this strip of Canyon Road. And it is a very strange feeling. I made a joke about being selfish, but whenever you hear of these things happening, you do become very introspective and you think like, oh my gosh, I've driven this road 100 times. People in my little club have driven it thousands of times. It could have been any of us. And then you think, well, what can I do to mitigate this risk, and how could this have happened, and what were they doing, and who did they hit? What was the other car involved? And all these things, we're clamoring for more information to try to make us feel okay. And the truth is, again, every new piece of information just kind of made the story worse. Like, there wasn't another vehicle involved. It was a single vehicle incident. It seems like there was probably oversteer involved, like some snap oversteer. They went over one side. It looks like the vehicle rolled at least a couple times, and now a man and his younger family member have tragically passed away. The vehicle was a Porsche, I believe a 997 GT3, and it's sucks. The Porsche community was talking about it recently. The SoCal, driving community was talking about it, and it is just an immense tragedy. And again, I don't know these people personally. I didn't see it happen, but it was within hours of me being there filming, and that's kind of surreal. And listen, I have my own fears when I go on the canyon. Every time I drive Angeles Crest, I think about things that could potentially go wrong. I have a personal fear of someone crossing a double yellow, going into my lane as I'm cornering, and us just hitting head on. And the truth is, that has happened. That has happened numerous times on these canyon roads. And the more you drive these canyon roads, the more you're bound to, come across someone who's not having the same driver's etiquette as you, or some knucklehead that's doing things that are just straight up dangerous. And you see that, and you're just like, man, screw this guy. He's ruining it for the rest of us. All it takes is for a bunch of these things to happen before California just shuts it down, like closes these canyon roads, or just puts a bunch of cops on these canyon roads and starts gating them, because they've done it before. They've gated certain areas of Angeles Crest to deter traffic from going through them. And we want to enjoy these roads, but we want it to be safe, and we don't want people to be getting injured or dying. But it is kind of a numbers game. I mean, the more you interact with that strip of road, the more you're bound to come across some people who are just not very safe. And believe me, I'm not trying to make a judgment of this specific driver from the recent stories. I'm not trying to make a judgment of his capability or his driving skills or what he was doing. I'm not saying he was one of the unsafe ones. I'm saying that while he was there, something bad clearly did happen and 2 people lost their lives, and that sucks. Which leads me to something that I kind of worked on in my head all last night after hearing this story. You have to respect the Crest. These canyons are dangerous. Deadly, even. This example, and many others like it, are proof that you don't need to have an accident with another driver for something to go wrong and for people to pass away. You can just be driving in one car and it's just a split-second decision. You take a corner too fast, you have to overcorrect, and you are now in a very bad situation. And guys, I'm not making this episode to scare anyone. I'm making this episode to try and reinforce something that we all know in the back of our minds is true. These canyons are dangerous, and if you don't respect them, they can kill you. So I'm going to take a few moments and share with you my main takeaways after thinking about this. The first thing is to tell the people around you that you love them as much as possible. I know that's cheesy, but that's the first thing that you definitely just want to go ahead and execute upon. And the next thing is to make high percentage decisions whenever possible. These include, driving according to your skill level and being honest with yourself. Guys, I am not the fastest driver. I don't drive the fastest cars, but I always try to drive according to my comfort and skill level, and I'm not going to try to get over my head, because the second I start thinking I'm better than I actually am, that's when bad things happen. I also focus on not trying to impress anyone else, okay? If I'm driving in a convoy of other, drivers and we roll out together, it's a little Porsche Club meet, I'm not going to try to impress any of them, and I hope that they're not trying to impress me, because guess what? I'm not focusing on them. I'm focusing on, spatial awareness, where I am in relation to them, where I am in relation to other potential obstacles on the road, and paying attention to the corners, and I am not trying to impress anyone. I'm not a Formula One driver. I'm just a casual weekend warrior trying to have some fun and be as safe as possible, and I don't want anything to go wrong. And to that point, you don't want to drive using your rear view. What do I mean by that? Well, you're always checking your mirrors. You're always doing a good job being aware, but you don't want to drive just paying attention to your rear view. Oh, how close is that guy? Oh, he's getting close to me. Oh, I don't want to be too slow. That's going to be a hindrance to the drive. Oh, I'm going to push it. No. Be aware of your mirrors, be aware of who's behind you and who's in front of you, but if they're catching up to you and you don't feel comfortable with how close they are, pull over. Use one of the turnoffs, safely pull over, and let them go by you. No hard feelings, you can catch up later. Who cares? Understand that your car will 9 times out of 10 outperform you. What do I mean by that? Well, again, my cars aren't the fastest cars on the canyon, but they still are probably faster than I can drive. So my cars can definitely be pushed to the limit. I'm not the most skilled driver to be able to take them to the ultimate limit. Maybe in many years of doing this, I'll get to that point where I feel totally comfortable. I'm Travis Pastrana taking cars sideways through the canyons. I'm not there. I'm a normal dude. I drive fun cars. They're not the fastest cars, but they're much faster than my current driving ability, and I'm honest about that. Another kind of high percentage decision is to be aware and understand that you might not want to drive the same way with a passenger that you would by yourself. To be clear, I value my life. I value Connie's life even more than my own. I don't want something bad happening to me, but under no circumstance in any world, in any existence, in any realm, would I be okay with anything happening to Connie. That's not even a question. So if I feel like I want to push the limit a little bit and be kind of maybe more aggressive than I normally would, and I feel comfortable doing that, I'm not going to do that with a passenger in the car, because they weren't there to make the decision for me to drive a little bit more aggressively. value your passengers' lives over your own. That's what I would say. But you should be wanting to value your own life as well. Let's be honest, guys. Like, you're not expendable, but please, like, if you're not going to drive safely for you, drive safely for your passenger. The next high percentage decision would be to invest in some training if you haven't already, and then also some adequate safety equipment. I mean, everybody says the best modification you can do to your car is some driver's training, right? Why not? But outside of that, some decent modifications like, brakes. People want to focus on adding horsepower, but I think brakes and tires are probably where you should start. That's where I start with all my vehicle builds. And then some, higher end safety equipment like some decent seats, some harnesses, a roll cage. Again, I want to reiterate, I didn't know the person in this most recent occurrence, but I have seen the vehicle on Instagram from right before this unfortunate tragedy, and the GT3 did not have a roll cage. I'm not saying that a roll cage will 100% of the time prevent a tragedy, but it is something to consider. And speaking to that last point, talking about, safety equipment and modifications, this has kind of shifted me in a different direction. I am now moving forward with an auto power roll cage on my 996 911. I made an episode recently showing you guys the auto power cage on my Porsche 944. The installation was a breeze. It was, everything I'd hoped for and more. The finishing was great on it. The quality was great. And again, just talking about that fitment, it was just the install. Super duper simple. But the reason I learned about auto power was actually because I was looking for a roll cage for my 996 911. Now, I chose to go a different direction with that build, but after this occurrence and after kind of reading more and more about these things happening in the canyons, I've reconsidered and I'm going with an auto power cage in my 911. I just don't want to take it to the canyon without one at this point. It's kind of like a why not, right? Invest $1,000 in your life. It seems kind of worth it to me. So guys, in summation, I absolutely hate that this happened. I especially hate that a younger person lost their life. But I think the best thing we can do to honor these people is to learn from this and make some good decisions, some better decisions when we're in the canyons. And if everyone does their part and we all, have some decent driver's etiquette and we're all aware and we all become more honest with our own driving ability, we can hopefully mitigate these tragedies, and stop them before they even start. I love Angeles Crest. I also know it's dangerous, and if we don't respect it, just be safe out there, guys. I love you. I'll see you on the Crest.